China urges Israel and Iran to immediately reduce tensions published. China is again urging Israel and Iran to take steps to de-escalate as strikes by both sides continue. We urge all parties to immediately take measures to cool down the tensions, prevent the region from falling into greater turmoil, and create conditions for returning to the right track of resolving issues through dialogue and negotiations, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiaquan said on Monday. His comments come after another spokesman on Sunday said that China is willing to play a constructive role in this process of de-escalation. Israelis speak of shock at destruction as Iranians try to flee Tehran. Another wave of missiles has been fired at Israel from Iran this evening, with reports that a building in Haifa has been hit. Israelis have been coming to terms with the images of a devastated residential building in the coastal city of Bat Yam where 7 people, including 2 children, were killed in an earlier strike. Residents there told the BBC of their shock at seeing the destruction that Iran can wreak, despite the protective shield of the Iron Dome air defense system. In Iran, people have been snarled up in huge traffic jams as they try to get out of Tehran, which is increasingly becoming a target of Israel's relentless bombardment, and one that is intensifying by the day. Trump vetoed Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, U.S. officials tell CBS published at 3:56. 3:56 breaking. U.S. President Donald Trump rejected a recent Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, 3 U.S. officials tell CBS News, the BBC's U.S. partner. One official says the Israelis had the opportunity to assassinate Khamenei, and Trump conveyed to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that it wasn't a good idea. They say the conversation between Netanyahu and Trump happened after Israel launched a massive attack on Iran last week. Trump's rejection of the proposal was first reported by Reuters. During an interview with Fox News earlier this evening, Netanyahu did not directly confirm or deny Reuters' reporting. There's so many false reports of conversations that never happened and I'm not going to get into that, he said. But I can tell you I think we do what we need to do. We will do what we need to do and I think the United States knows what is good for the United States and I'm just not going to get into it. IDF lifts shelter instruction as it confirms reports of fallen projectiles at several sites published at 3:33. Israel's military says they've received reports of falls at several sites across the country. In an update on Telegram, the Israel Defense Forces say, following the situational assessment, the Home Front Command published that it is now permitted to leave protected spaces areas across the country. Search and rescue forces are operating in several locations across the country in which reports of fallen projectiles were received. Smoke billows as Israel police confirm settlement hit in Haifa published at 3:19. Israel police say emergency services have had reports of a weapon hitting one of the settlements in the northern coastal port city of Haifa. At this stage, no reports of casualties have been received, but property damage has occurred, officials say. Footage and images from Haifa show thick columns of smoke rising into the night sky above the city. We ask the public to stay away from crash sites and obey the instructions of the police on the ground, Israel police add. Israel's ambulance service, Magen David Adom, says 2 people have been taken to hospital for injuries suffered from shrapnel. Attack on Iran widens, but Netanyahu says Israel is on side of Iranian people. Israel is widening its attack on Iran by the day. It started by targeting Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure, hitting not just the sites but the people running them. Now, there are reports of strikes on residential areas, fuel depots, ministries and even an attack 2,000 kilometers from Israel on a refueling plane in Mashhad airport. The toll in casualties in Iran is also becoming clearer. The Israeli military has spoken of opening a path to Tehran, while Defense Minister Israel Katz has threatened to burn the Iranian capital if Iran continues to fire missiles at Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has claimed Israel is on the side of the Iranian people and quoted the famous slogan of mass protests there a few years ago, "Woman, life, freedom." At the same time, Israelis have seen destruction and loss of life in quiet residential areas, despite the Iron Dome. Such incidents only seem likely to drive the Israeli government's attack on Iran even more fiercely. But in doing so, Israel risks turning its stated aim of a war on the Islamic regime and its potential to build nuclear bombs into what may look more like a war on the Iranian people. Netanyahu says regime change in Iran could certainly be the result, published at 2:17. In the interview on Fox News, Benjamin Netanyahu is asked if regime change in Iran is part of Israel's efforts. It could certainly be the result, because the Iranian regime is very weak, he says. Netanyahu claims the current Iranian regime doesn't have the people, and says 80% of the people want to overthrow it. He also says the Persian people and the Jewish people have had an ancient friendship, and adds, the decision to act, to rise up at this time is the decision of the Iranian people. The issue here is not de-escalation and ceasefire, published. Fox News host Brett Baier asks Netanyahu about Trump's comments that Israel and Iran should make a deal. It is worth it if they, Iran, do what the president wants, and dismantles its nuclear capability. Netanyahu says, but he adds that Israel isn't going to wait for that. Netanyahu says that, even if Iran agrees to stop firing missiles at Israel as part of any deal, it doesn't mean they'll stop developing their nuclear capability. The issue here is not de-escalation. The issue here is not ceasefire. The issue is to stop those things that threaten our survival, he says. Israel has set back Iran's nuclear capacity quite a bit, Netanyahu published at 1:45. More from the Israeli Prime Minister's interview. Fox News host Brett Baier asks Netanyahu how much Israel has damaged Iran's nuclear capacity so far. I think we've set him back quite a bit, Netanyahu says. I think they were completely surprised. He adds that Israel has secured a free highway to Tehran, referring to the Israeli Air Force's aerial superiority since Friday. We can now pick off the targets we need in Tehran and in other places. Netanyahu says he and Trump are fully coordinated. As said, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is giving a live interview with Fox News in the US. He praises Donald Trump several times, telling host Brett Baier that he and Trump are fully coordinated. Trump has said the US is not involved in the conflict. When asked if he has requested US-made bunker buster bombs from Trump, weapons that can destroy underground targets, Netanyahu says, I'm not going to get into my discussions with the president. But understand that his decisions are his decisions, Netanyahu adds. He also says Israel has already damaged Iran's nuclear capability, including an attack on a nuclear plant in Isfahan. Baier presses again about Israel's ability to strike Iranian nuclear sites underground. Netanyahu says, we have quite a few rabbits up our sleeve, and I don't think I should get into that. Here's another comment from the German Chancellor. Friedrich Merz says it is crucial that Iran must not develop or possess nuclear weapons. Speaking to reporters before heading to a G7 summit in Canada, Merz says that Iran's progress toward nuclear weapons led to Israel attacking military targets in Iran on Friday. This would be a threat to Israel, the Middle East, and the international community as a whole, he says. Iran has denied that it has a nuclear weapons program. Merz adds that Israel has asked Germany to provide fire-extinguishing equipment. We will initiate this immediately, he says. Countries worldwide react to Israel-Iran conflict, published at 0:59. Here are some comments from around the world on the Israel-Iran conflict. Iraq's Prime Minister, Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, says he told the EU ambassador in Baghdad that Israel's strikes on Iran are a direct threat to security and stability in Iraq and the region, and are meant to obstruct diplomatic efforts. France's Foreign Minister, Jean-Noël Barrot, says Iran's nuclear program poses an existential threat to the security of Israel and Europe. Germany's Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, says Tehran must stop bombing civilian targets in Israel immediately. He adds that Germany is preparing for the possibility of Iran targeting Israeli or Jewish sites within the Germany. Turkey's Foreign Minister, Hakan Fidan, told his Russian counterpart in a phone call that only diplomacy could resolve the worrying conflict, according to an official source speaking to Reuters. Iran's president urges Iraq to block Israeli use of airspace, published at 038. More on the phone call between Iran and Iraq that we mentioned earlier. Iran's president has called on Iraq to stop Israel from using its airspace to launch attacks on Iran, according to a statement from the Iranian presidency. Iraq lies between Israel and Iran. Masoud Pezeshkian urged his Iraqi counterpart to exercise greater vigilance, so that Iraqi territory is not misused against the Islamic Republic of Iran, according to the statement. And that's it for today's news. Thanks for staying with us to the end. If you found this update helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a story that matters.